time for Geek Gab, and listener Scott sends us our quick tip of the week. He says, for your listener who recently wanted notifications when his AirPods are low on battery, I find it useful to have the batteries widget on my Today view, the screen to the left of the home screen on my iPhone, although you can put it elsewhere if you prefer. This widget gives me the charging levels for my phone, watch, AirPods case, and the AirPods themselves, and I find it super helpful. More tips like this, plus your questions answered today on Geek Gab 1096 for Monday, June 30th, Social Media Day 2025. Folks, and welcome to Geek Gab, the show where you send in tips like that. You send in cool stuff found. You send in questions. We share them. We try to answer your questions. We string them together into an agenda that hopefully not only makes sense, but makes it easy for each of us to learn at least 5 new things every single time we get together. Sponsors for this episode include Surfshark.com/MGG, where you can use code MGG at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. ConstantContact.com, where you can try Constant Contact free for 30 days, and it's going to make your marketing easier. Wix.com, and we've got a link in the show notes that lets you start your free trial with Wix. Great website creation. And ScreenFloat 2 from our friends that make Yoink. Is ScreenFloat the Mac screen capture all-rounder? We'll talk more about all of those in a little bit. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Mr. 101. At least that's how I feel this morning. That was my temperature and my heart rate when I woke up this morning. I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in South Dakota, I'm Adam Christensen.
And here, in the Witness Protection Program, if you're watching live, is Pilot Pete. For whatever reason, my camera just decided to go stupid on us, so I'll get myself out of the way. Greetings, everybody, and good to be back. Oh, looks, I'm back.
You're
good
back.
To be back.
I blame Carrot. Carrot said it was going to be foggy today, and it wasn't when I woke up, but there it was.
There it was.
Pete was fog.
Well, I feel foggy today. I don't know, whatever I picked up, it's got like, it's probably what we fish fans call wook flu, because I went to a couple of fish concerts this weekend, and that was really the only time I've been out. Oh yeah, it's fine. Thankfully, it's just a headache and achiness, and Tylenol seems to deal with it for the most part. But yeah,
well, that's good.
I did the Home Gadget Geeks podcast last night, which will be out by the time this comes out. And we talked about a lot of fun stuff. But I noticed like my memory recall was not where I expected it to be. So I'm curious to see how this show goes this morning. But otherwise, it's going to be fine. Yeah,
well, this should be a cool show, right?
That's the idea. Let's do some cool stuff found, shall we?
Well, absolutely. Yeah. I can start us off with Richard.
Great.
He says, this week there was some discussion about the magnetic capabilities of AirTag. I think Pete brought that up. That prompts me to tell you about Elevation Lab and their fantastic AirTag holders. They just released a small form factor case that screws open to hold an AirTag and has a nice magnet on it that should work great on vehicles or other metal things that you want to track. I bought a number of their designs, including a sturdy keyring holder that screws together as well, not to be confused with Elevation Labs. I'm not sure what that means. You may have covered Elevation Labs before, but I can't remember. We actually have. They make a ton. If you're looking for AirTag holders, that's the place to go. They have one for just about every purpose. They would be a great sponsor as well. I agree. Thanks for all the good info that I get every week. Well, you're welcome, Richard.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So this, you actually, like, they have a picture where they show it stuck to the, the frame of your car, the chassis of your car. Yeah, that's pretty good. Huh? Love it. Yeah, of course, Elevation Labs are the ones to come up with a solution for that. That's like you said, that's what they do. So yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah, I would assume that's a super strong magnet as opposed to the, speaker magnet that's in there.
That just so happens to be in there, right? Yeah, exactly.
Kind of makes it sort of magnetic.
Yep. In our see, there it is. Discord, that's the thing. Listener Richard was asking about, is there a way to rename desktop spaces in Mission Control so that they don't just show up as desktop 1, desktop 2, etc.? And listener Ben found a cool stuff found called Spaces Renamer on GitHub, and it does exactly that and seems to work in the way that you would expect it to work. So you just rename your spaces to whatever you want them to be, and then that's the label you get in Mission Control. So nice find, Ben. That's great. Yeah. Fun.
There's no way to do that natively?
Evidently not.
Whoa. I thought, didn't there used to be?
Yeah, that I don't know.
Oh, well, that seems like a huge miss.
Yeah, I agreed. Yes. I mean, clearly there is a way, like, obviously if Spaces Renamer can do it,
Right.
like, it's doable. Apple just doesn't expose.
Terminal command.
Yeah, exactly. It's some kind of terminal command. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, yepper. All right.
Take us to Andrew.
Let's go.
All right. So Andrew writes in. He says, "Lads, the other week, Pilot Pete mentioned his struggle with converting his home time zone with the time zone he's in and UTC. Let me fix that for you, way beyond what most time zone apps do. I'm a ham radio operator, and I am forever converting UTC, GMT, or Zulu, all three are the same, as it is the time standard of the platform. What makes this app cool and different from most is that you can scroll forward on the clock to work out what time it will be in multiple locations in however many hours and minutes you would like. It sits in the Mac menu bar, and iOS and iPadOS versions are coming apparently. For example, if you're flying from San Francisco to Sydney, you can say, I'll call you in New York when I get to Sydney, and allowing for customs, that will be in 15 hours. So in the app, spin the wheel for 15 hours, and you'll know what time in Eastern, Pacific, Sydney, and UTC time zones, allowing you to inform the other party. Time and Date has a similar web version, meeting planner, and the time zone converter app is an excellent value for the money and works well. And it's super handy in the menu bar. And he also hits us with this fun fact. I think I covered this probably 15 years ago. I might have mentioned it once, but according to Flight Radar 24, and this is true, I can verify it, Zulu comes from the U.S. military, which assigns global time zones with letter codes. And I believe at -4 right now on the East Coast, we're in Romeo. And when we fall back in the fall, we go to Quebec. And that's why, there's 26 letters in the alphabet and 24 time zones. I think we skip Juliet and possibly India. I don't remember for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
That's where that comes from?
Yeah.
Who knew? I mean, I know who knew. You and Andrew, at least. But yeah.
We actually, when we would finish our flights, and we would fill out a yellow sheet in maintenance control, and one of the things you had to do was put which time zone you were in. It was always Quebec or Romeo for the East Coast. So,
amazing! I love that. That's cool. I had an interesting experience recently. I'm, as you know, I along with you guys, am bullish on this idea of batteries being things that we can now have in our homes to be sort of generator either replacements or stand-ins or something along those lines, instead of having a generator for when your power goes out. And that's especially true for people who live in apartments and simply cannot run a generator indoors, because don't do that. That's bad. And I was testing out the portable power station Andes 1500 from a company called Ampace, AMPACE, and I got this thing and I started playing with it and was amazed at how powerful it was. I even used it to run my electric leaf blower, because it was way easier to move this thing around my yard than to try and create extension cords to go to all corners of the yard. I just kind of moved it around, and it had a lot of power and worked. And then my daughter called us one morning a couple of weeks ago. She is staying in an apartment about one town over from us. And there was a point of confusion between her landlords and the electric company, and her power was turned off. Her landlord was very apologetic, of course, and ran a cable up to an extension cord up from their house, like their portion of the house downstairs to where my daughter and her fiance live upstairs, and to get the refrigerator running. But it wasn't going to be enough to do like the TV and this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, well, here we go. Like, this is literally what this is for. And so we brought this over there. We plugged it in. And on one charge, the power was off for 3 days. And on one charge, she was able to run her TV and Apple TV and Sonos soundbar and some lights for the whole time without even needing to think about recharging it. I think when she brought it back, it was, still at 60% or something.
Dang.
Yeah, it really, we're living in a world where batteries have really leveled up. And this is one of the things. And this can be recharged, of course, just by plugging it into, a standard AC outlet. But it also has the option of being recharged with solar. So, and the nice part about things like this is, I know it's going to sound obvious, but this also could be recharged by your generator if you happen to have one of those. So, but you don't need the generator running full time in order to get power to all of your devices. And that is kind of the nice paradigm shift that we get to live in these days. So, yeah, I'm stoked about this.
2,400 watts, that'll run your microwave easily.
Correct. Easily. Yeah. Peak of 3,600, consistent 2,400 watts. Yeah, I know.
Does it provide 240?
No, this one does not provide 240. So, but they do have them that do, for sure. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. I guess refrigerators are 120. So you're
yes, refrigerators are. Yeah,
okay.
Here they are anyway. Yeah.
It's my water heater and furnace that are on dipole.
Got it.
Breakers.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Really,
I like that.
Yeah, and portable enough. One person can cart this thing around. So great, camping.
Yep.
It changes the game for camping. It makes it less like camping, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
How much does it weigh, Dave?
37 pounds is.
That's not real heavy for.
No.
It's and it looks like it had a handle on it.
It has two handles on the top, so you can just lift it. It's super easy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing: if you're car camping like people do, and they take gas generators, and those things are loud and annoying. So
yes. Yeah. So yeah, I know. I'm impressed with this thing. So yeah.
Very cool.
I agree. It's a cool world we get to live in. So yep.
And speaking of that, I got a cool thing too here. I have the Scosche portable vacuum and blower, and this thing is cool. I realize we're an audio show, but I'll hold it up for the people that are watching. It's a 10-inch by 7-inch by about 3-inch thick case.
Okay.
Recharges via USB. It's a super powerful little vacuum. It is the vacuum itself. I would say it's about the size of a large 45 caliber pistol.
Okay, sure.
That's it. Or a small hairdryer.
Yeah, right. That's what it looks like to me. It's just a small hairdryer. Yeah.
Although the pointy end is the suction end.
Right. Yes, the opposite of a hairdryer. Right.
Yeah, but it has all kinds of little tools that come with it to make it like a dust blower for your keyboard. Or I took it out and used it as a vacuum on my airplane because I didn't want a bunch of extension cords banging against the new paint job as I got in the airplane to clean it out. So, excuse me. So needless to say, it is cordless. It has a two washable HEPA filters that it comes with. It's got the tools to get into small crevices, between the seats and underneath and all that kind of stuff. But like I say, you can use it as an air duster. I could also use it to inflate or deflate pool toys or guest air mattresses and that kind of stuff. And
right.
Yeah. So, and it's got the attachments that come for large and small. I think they're called Boston valves on like the pool toys and the inflatable boats and that stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a one-way valve to let air in, but not let air out.
Right.
So whole thing weighs less than a pound. Gets 16 minutes on its turbo mode. You get 32 minutes on its normal mode. And man,
can you run it off of USB-C power? Like, is USB-C only for charge? So USB-C is only for charging.
Yeah, the trigger is dead when it's plugged in for charging.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
But what a wonderful little vacuum that thing is.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I don't think my airplane had been vacuumed since I bought it 5 years ago. So
that's not a bad thing. Yeah.
It's like, I'll take this out. Boom. So.
Yep. Nice. Yeah. That's great.
It weighs less. Flies better.
That's right. You made it more efficient, Pete. That's right. Cool. All right. We have more cool stuff found that we will go through. It's been a little while since we've done an episode that starts with cool stuff found, but we figured why not? We'll go through some of that stuff. We do have some of your questions that I think we'll be able to get to. The next thing that I want to do is talk about our first couple of sponsors because, well, that moment when inspiration hits, you've got a great idea for a business, a side hustle, maybe even your next passion project. And then you hit the wall of, I need a website. That's exactly where our sponsor Wix comes in. Wix puts stunning, business-ready websites at your fingertips using, you guessed it, AI. You just answer a few questions and boom, you've got a smart-looking site that feels like you built it, except you didn't, and you didn't have to write a single line of code. Or, hey, maybe you like templates, right? Maybe you do want to do some building. Wix has over 2,000 templates, fully customizable with drag and drop tools, effects, and even an AI-powered image studio. Want to sell stuff? Book appointments? Wix has all that built in. No plugins, no patchwork. These folks have been at this for nearly 20 years. They get it. And with how quickly you can build and launch something on Wix, there's literally no excuse. So don't get caught letting your next great idea die in a text file. Are you ready to create your own website? Go to Wix.com. That's Wix.com, or click a link in our show notes to start building your website today. And our thanks to Wix for sponsoring our show. And you ever connect to airport Wi-Fi and feel that little pang of paranoia, like maybe your data is flying coach while some hacker's flying first class on your credentials? I mean, we've all been there. And that's why I love what the folks at Surfshark VPN, our sponsors, are doing. This thing looks awesome. First, Surfshark gives you military-grade encryption so your browsing, your banking, and your binging habits stay yours. Second, it lets you bypass geo-restrictions for those binging habits, which means you can watch shows or access content from anywhere. And third, you can use it on unlimited devices. That's right, phone, laptop, tablet, all protected. They've even got extras like Surfshark Search to browse ad-free, and Surfshark Alert to warn you if your data leaks. Don't get caught without protection. It's time to take control of your online security. Try Surfshark risk-free today and enjoy their 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to surfshark.com/MGG for 4 extra months of Surfshark. That's code MGG at surfshark.com. URL and code can also be found in our show notes, of course. And our thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this episode. All right, Adam, you and I were talking the other day, and of course, last week here on the show, you shared that you got a new Mac, and so you have some new backup strategies and the migration strategies that we talked about, but you wound up getting some new hardware.
I decided that I was tired of using my old USB-C 2.0, or USB, rather, 2.0 spinning drives for my Time Machine and my carbon copy cloner CCC backups, and decided it was time to get something a little more modern. So I went out looking for SSDs, figuring I'd get kind of the same form factor SSD. And I did some research. I usually get either the Samsung, well, typically I've gotten the Samsung ones in the past.
Sure.
The T7 series, I think is what they call them, or something like that. But then I saw Crucial had one called the X9, and I did some research, and the X9s had a little bit longer warranty, I think 3 years versus 2 years, and some other things. So got these Crucial, what's it called? The X9.
Yeah, it's the X9. Yep.
USB-C 2 terabytes off Amazon, $122 basically. But when it came, I almost thought they didn't send me it because I also ordered this with a hub, I think that we're going to talk about from Anker. And it came in an Amazon just like bubble pack. It was like the tiniest thing. And I pull this thing out, and it's I'll show it on the video. We'll have screenshots and links in the show notes, but this thing is
smaller
super
than the
small.
3x5 card.
Well, look at here. I'll put my AirPods Pro in front of it.
Wow.
It's just a little bit wider and taller than an AirPods Pro case, and super thin.
Yeah.
And it's USB-C 3.2, USB 3.2 Gen 2, whatever, the latest.
So that's 10 gigs a second, right?
Yeah, 10 gigabits per second.
Yeah, that's great.
It has a transfer speed or a write speed of up to 1050.
Sure. Yep.
Just super convenient, super small.
That's outstanding.
Doing the job, now my time machine back, because I'm not waiting on like forever. I mean, I never wait on them, right? I never really monitor them, but it's just much more convenient, especially for like carbon copy cloner updates and stuff like that. It just goes a lot faster, and I just don't have to worry about having it plugged in all the time, especially with a portable. So
yeah, right.
I can plug it in and know that I'll get a quick backup, of even if I haven't had it plugged in for a couple of days or a week or something like that, it'll just catch up real quick, and I can pop them out. And yeah, they're just incredibly portable. So I'll be able to actually take those with me. I don't normally take my backup drives with me on the road, but I probably will take these because you just throw them in a bag and they're not going to take up hardly any space. I can't believe how far SSDs have come. So I got that. And then I also wanted to make sure that I had a way to plug everything in and get that full speed, that full 10 gigabits. And so I'm like, well, I probably should grab a new USB-C, 3.2 hub. And I grabbed the Anker 4-in-1 USB-C hub off Amazon. It looks like they may have updated this. So I don't know if I overpaid, because they have a newer model. So this one's just called the 4-in-1 USB-C hub. There's a new one called the Anker 332 USB-C 5-in-1 hub that has a little bit of different form factor, but kind of the same things. And I think the 5-in-1 adds HDMI port.
Okay.
And it's actually cheaper. It's
there you go.
The one I got was about $35. Oh, $26, I guess, on Amazon right now. I don't remember what I paid. I might have overpaid, or who knows. But it's a great device. So it's a 4-way. It's got a 100-watt power delivery for one port, and then 3 10-gigabit ports on it. So you can hook everything up at full speed, and you can also get power delivery. It looks like on the back side of it, the power delivery is about, I think it's a 65 watts, like coming out the other side.
Yep.
So,
that's great.
Plenty enough to be fast charging. And then that one also acts as I think you can connect up to a 4K display on that.
Wow. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, sure.
Delivery, so.
Yep. Huh.
And they're practically giving it away.
So yeah, $27 is what it looks like on Amazon.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. But again, this other one might be is about the same price, and like I said, does and has all the same features and adds that HDMI port. I think it might be slightly bigger, and it plugs in on the side instead of the back. So take a look at both of them for whatever you might need. I like how this one was oriented, because it just comes straight out, and then it just looks like your standard old, add 4 ports onto your setup.
That's really, I like that form factor where it's that's really nice. It's great, man. I wanted to share something. I had a Dave the Nerd client who local to me, who called me, and I haven't done that kind of work on site in a long time, but she still had my number.
Well,
and
at least not for money.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. And so, but she had an issue. She had a external drive that had died. And so she worked with somebody else local, and they had set it up for her, but it wasn't. She was like, something's wrong. Would you please just come over and kind of take a look at this? Things aren't right. And so she had gotten this 8 terabyte drive, and whoever set it up had set it up with APFS, but had partitioned it into 2 4 terabyte volumes because she wanted to store 2 different things on there. But that was the issue, is she didn't need 2 4 terabyte volumes. She needed one volume that was going to be maybe 1 terabyte, and then one that, could hold 4 5 6 terabytes of stuff. And I said, oh, well, no problem. Like, it's APFS. We can just move it around. Like, no, that's the beauty of APFS. Not with the way it had been configured and formatted initially. This thing was actually partitioned, and you could not change the size of the first 4 terabyte partition. It wouldn't go larger. It wouldn't go smaller. And so I fought with it for a little bit. And finally I said to her, look, let me just take this back to my house. I will I'll copy the stuff that's on it off. I'll reformat it. I'll put it back on. It's going to be way faster for me to do this at my desk, where I don't need to like burn the clock on you, to do this. And so I did, and I, just reformatted it. But the lesson here is, when formatting something with APFS, format it as one big blob of storage and then just add volumes to it. Don't partition it. And I know it's a mindset thing in days of old, and really not that long ago. Partitioning is what we did. And so it makes sense to think of it that way. But with APFS, you can have a blob of storage with multiple volumes, and the size of the volumes is just, you can set minimum and maximum sizes on it, but you don't have to. It will just use the blob of storage as you see fit. And certainly I'm sure there are some scenarios where it makes sense to actually do partitioning, but in a general sense, just, let APFS kind of handle it. And so that's what we did for her, and she's much happier and all that. So as you're getting new drives, folks, just think about, partition only if you are certain that's what you want to do, but don't make it your default. Yes, Adam?
I have a question.
Yes.
So in disk utility,
yes,
when you are looking at this, right, the way APFS volumes, I think, look now is you have at the top level, like the physical, like media, I think.
Yep.
And then usually inside there, you're going to have a container, an APFS container.
That's the right word.
And then under that, you're going to have the volume.
Yes.
I noticed that you can add an APFS volume at the volume level and at the container level. Is it the same? Does it make a difference?
I create one container. So when I say a blob of storage, I mean container is the right word. And then add volumes to that container. And that way the size of the volumes is just whatever data they are consuming is what they're using of that overall container. And so you have one container with multiple volumes. I'm glad you asked that question.
I'm just curious why the UI has the ability to add a volume to a volume. That seems odd. Like, I wonder if it would still just add it at the container level.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, it might. You might be right about that. Yeah. I always add it to the container, but yes, I think you're right that it would just add it.
So do it at
wherever.
the container level just to be safe.
Yeah, that's where I do it, and that seems to work very well. Yep. And if you don't see containers when you go into disk utility, go to the view menu and choose show all devices as opposed to show only volumes. And that'll get you there. Yeah.
So
cool.
I also have a quick question. Volume cannot be seen unless it's mounted. So you could have 2 or 3 volumes in there, right? And
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
But within that container, actually on the drive itself, that data could be all intermingled, but it doesn't matter. The computer keeps that straight.
Yes, it could be on an SSD. It doesn't really matter, and
that's true. Yeah.
So on a spindle drive, there might be an argument to be made for partitioning things for the best performance, because that way you're not jumping the heads all over the place. Like there might be, but even then, I would argue, depending on what you're doing with it, you might just be better off letting it just be a big blob of storage as a container. So
yeah.
Yep. So
That's true. Nothing has to move around to get that data on an SSD.
Correct. Yeah, it's all over the place. It doesn't matter. Right. Yep.
So how do it know where to go get it? I don't know.
It creates.
Just knows. Yeah. So, all right. Well, let me take us to Brian, who asks, what device is needed for a simple network time machine? He says, "Greetings, gentlemen." There's that word again, but only because it's true. Well, thank you, Brian. He says, "Our daughters have their own place and use Apple MacBook Pros with an Aero mesh network system for work and general use. They also have an old iMac with a connected USB drive as a time machine destination for their laptops. This iMac will be replaced soon, and I'm researching ways to keep Time Machine running. I found the Ethernet connected drives available, but I don't know the sizes. I contacted Aero, who said I could connect an Ethernet drive to an Aero unit and share it across the network. Do you have any experience with this setup?" And he has a few questions about that. Would the Aero need Time Machine software to work? Could Time Machine overtax the Aero processor, or is any unique Time Machine data handled by the Mac? Could I directly connect the drive to the Mac if a MacBook Pro needed to be restored, or I could buy a Time Machine capable router and connect it to the Aero bridge mode, turning off the router's Wi-Fi system? What router would you recommend for this simple task that's easy to manage and not very expensive? I'm open to other suggestions. I find it incomprehensible that no one has created a non-geeky device that solves this problem for most Mac users. The internet is full of Apple users trying to maintain old Airport Extremes and time machines for this one task. I want to give our daughters a more modern solution that doesn't involve worrying about obsolescence. Thank you so much. You make a positive difference in so many lives. Brian, what a nice letter. Thank you.
Yeah. And he had said in a follow-up that, he thought getting a Synology disk station or something like a NAS would be overkill. And that may be true. I do want to point out that anything that is network connected, Ethernet or Wi-Fi, and has storage in it is by definition NAS, right? Network attached storage. And so, normally we think of NAS like Synology disk station or a QNAP. The market has been pretty wide for that over the years. So finding some lower cost and lighter weight NAS is kind of what you're looking for here, sort of. Network time machine backups were never the most reliable thing. Even when we were using an Apple time capsule, especially when we were connecting to it over Wi-Fi. And that remains true today. So I think that at least partially explains why Apple let this concept die. Another reason for the concept dying is that with everybody syncing their data to the cloud, most folks don't really care that much about backups anymore. And this is supported by the fact that Time Machine no longer has its own preference pane, right? It's buried under general. I think less and less people are using it. I don't think it's a bad thing to use it. In fact, I give you and your daughters a lot of credit for continuing to use Time Machine and backup. So we need to find you something. I think the one device that's out there that would work is the Buffalo Link Station. This is you can get it in various different sizes, but the 2 terabyte version of the Buffalo Link Station is $140. A 4 terabyte version is $175, and it is a network attached storage device that does have support for Time Machine. So I think that's going to be your best bet if you're going to do this. And if we're ruling out Synology, that's the option. Western Digital used to have their MyCloud Home product, which essentially did the same thing. But near as I can tell, that's been discontinued, at least based on my attempts in finding anything where I could buy it.
Wow.
So, yeah, but there's things like the Synology B Station or even a Synology DS124, which are going to be a little more expensive than the Buffalo Link Station, but get you a little bit more in terms of functionality. Or it may be less expensive in the end to just get two of the things you recommended earlier in the episode, Adam, two of those crucials, and then you're done. And you just plug one into each computer and let it kind of do its thing from there. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on this.
I was about to recommend the same thing. I mean, my daughters are both now not living at home. When they were here, I had set up, the Synology because they would never plug anything in to their laptops. And I think that's where the dilemma ends up being. I mean, I told them both when they left home and were at college, I sent them each a, little USB-C bus powered drive that was 2 times the internal storage of each of their MacBook Pros, and said, now just plug this in every once in a while. I told them how to set it up on my time machine. I said, but then what you have to do is every once in a while, plug it in, like every week or whatever it is. Don't forget to plug it in. And that's the problem. Is you have to remember to plug it in.
That's the key. Yeah.
And I said, if you need to set a time, a reminder, a weekly reminder on your calendar, do that. But don't get caught without backup, basically.
Yeah.
But so the network thing's nice because, then it's getting backed up and you're not having to physically remember to plug in. It's just kind of happening in the background without thinking about it. So that's the advantage of doing something like the Buffalo. I'm surprised about the MyCloud things. Those were nice little solutions. And now I think they just have like the expensive pro level series stuff, it looks like.
Correct. Yes. I was surprised. Yeah. I thought those still existed, but the fact that I thought they existed and yet we hadn't talked about them on the show for probably a decade, it sort of supports why maybe they don't exist anymore. Like if people aren't talking about them and buying them, then you don't keep making it, right? So yeah,
I guess cloud storage has kind of probably killed that end of the market, like you
said. Yeah.
The only other thing, it's not as convenient for restoring, obviously, like recovery, but, Backblaze, like you can get them a Backblaze account. They can both connect to it, and just let it back up to Backblaze.
Let it do its thing. Yeah.
Yep.
And go ahead.
No, that's what this woman that my Dave the Nerd client had done. She had a drive there that Backblaze had sent her, and she wanted to restore from it, but she didn't want to restore only to have to wipe it out again and all that. So she was under the clock. But because they'll ship you a drive to restore from, but I think she had 30 days to either ship it back or effectively buy it. Right? Yeah, exactly. Which is fine. Like but she was on a clock for sure. Yeah. Which makes sense.
Or you can call up your favorite podcaster and tell them your story, and they'll like recover everything onto a drive for you and then ship it to you.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
I had a really
Did you do that once?
I had a really good listener who had a tragedy, lost his house in a fire, and he said, I have everything on Backblaze, but I have no way to get it because he was without power, without a home. He was in really crummy wireless area, and he's like, if I just ship you a drive, can you recover everything? And so I helped him out. I just like recovered it for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Sent it back. I mean, so like,
Yep. Yeah, there you go. Yep. We do. I know we say that we do this because we like to help. It actually turns out that's true. We really do like to help. Like that's a big part of why we love doing what we do. But we all help each other. Like you help us too. It is a two-way street in a huge way. Yeah. Yeah. I learned more from all of you than I think I share on the show. So, yeah. It's great.
And actually, I just had a brainstorm when Adam was saying that, he told his daughters, you got to remember to plug it in actually to get it to work. So here's a free one out there for some enterprising hardware developer. Remember years ago, and I think they're still available, the wireless SD cards? Someone come up with a little wireless 2 terabyte drive that just sits in your office and
Well, I mean, that's Ethernet connected too. Like it's like you could like that's NAS, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, but this is a Wi-Fi thing. This would go via Wi-Fi too. I'm just, I bet people would buy it.
I think the solution is something we've already talked about, which is Adam, don't just get the thing you bought, the Crucial 2 terabyte. Also get the USB-C hub and plug the drive into the hub and use the hub as the power for your laptop, so that any time you plug it into charge, the drive is automatically connected and it's going to do a backup.
There you go.
Thing. Yeah.
Problem solved.
That is the exact solution, because you just plug the power delivery into that one port, plug the 2 drives in the other port, and then just tell your daughters when you plug in your computer, plug in this cable instead of the
use this one. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, and then you're done. Like that. Yeah. In fact, I gotta think about rejiggering some things here, because that's I don't know why I haven't thought of this before. maybe this fever is maybe this whole thing's just a fever dream anyway. But
there you go.
Yep. Just call me Heat Miser.
Yeah.
I'm too much.
Ready to go to Darrin?
Yes.
All right. Darrin wrote in. He says, 2 weeks ago, there was a discussion about doing a clean install of macOS. I ran into this at the beginning of WWDC. I downloaded Xcode 26 beta. Xcode 26 beta. They named Xcode also 26?
Everything's 26, Adam.
Cool. And ran into
we get to be 26 again, too. It's all like we're all 26. Everybody's
this
26.
This is 2025. Why am I confused?
Are they going to do that? Are they going to do that for all the software? Is it going to be, Logic Pro 26?
Oh,
I bet it is.
Pages 26.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Whatever. Anyway, I digress. He downloaded Xcode 26 beta and ran into a problem where I couldn't accept the software agreement. I would click to accept and nothing would happen. After a full day of dealing with that, including contacting Apple, I needed to start working on my apps. I decided to just do a clean install of macOS. I have an M2 Air and found on Apple's website the way to do a clean install was to just open the Settings app, go to General at the bottom, choose Transfer or Reset, and choose Erase All Content and Settings. I made sure everything was backed up and did this. I have done clean installs before by reformatting the hard drive and installing the OS. This does erase all content and settings. Does erase all content and settings, so this is the question, accomplish the same thing? Once I did this and re-downloaded the beta of Xcode 26 and opened it up, I quickly got past the agreement acceptance pop-up. The iOS like feature to erase all content and settings was painless to do and was less worrisome than reformatting and downloading the OS. But I wonder what is the difference. Love the show and never miss an episode.
Yeah, I mean that's it. There, it is like iOS now. You just get to erase all content and settings. They've made it so much easier, and yes, it does all the things for you. So that is the way. Yeah.
But that's just they throw away the keys, right? Because it's all based now on the encryption keys. I think that's how that works, right? So they basically just discard because everything's running through the I don't know what the current security chip is, T2
right,
or whatever, T5. I don't know what they're using currently, but I always thought that was why that works, right? Is because they don't actually erase anything. Everything's encrypted and they just throw away the keys.
You're probably right. I never thought about it that way. I always just assumed it was like, well, we'll just blow away the data partition, which effectively is what they're doing here by throwing away the keys. Like just, start a new data, I say partition, a new data volume, and then you're off to the races. So, yeah.
And
I thought that was because
I thought that was because we, with like SSDs too, right? Like why have to go in and clear all the bits,
Yeah, you don't just erase
remove wipe the key.
Remove the volume, create a new volume, and you're good to go. And that's what that does. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
But
maybe
it
doesn't
might do it by throwing away the keys. Like, technically speaking, you might be correct. I don't know, but yeah.
I would wonder, does it wipe the key, though, as opposed to just making it, unavailable so that a uneraser type software couldn't recover the key and try and work on it?
Well, the key's in the hardware.
Yeah.
It's in the chip.
Okay.
That's how the T2 chips work. That's why we have this whole weird, it boots not into real macOS first, and then you have to like get your password and then
I got it.
Right?
Yeah.
If I'm remembering how this works.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think I realized that until just now. Never thought about it. Didn't need to. It just worked.
It just works. But that's the point, right? Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let me take us to Peter, who talks about migrating from Intel to Apple as well, and brings it up this way. He says, hi, guys. I know Adam covered this in MGG 1095, but I know a lot of people are gun-shy regarding migrating from Intel to Apple Silicon using the Time Machine. So it bears mentioning again, not to be afraid of the process. I just did this a few weeks ago, and I had similar excellent results as Adam. After upgrading the OS on my new machine, I just ran through the prompted setup, selecting the Time Machine migration, and let it run overnight. There were some applications that wanted Rosetta, but none of them were critical, so I just deleted them. Brave browser needed to be reinstalled, as did Dropbox, and you have to claim your existing Time Machine backup. You're prompted to do so if you want to keep it, but other than those, it was smooth sailing. All my apps just worked and were blazing fast. Even my Backblaze license moved over automatically, so all I had to do was rename the backup. Apple really does make it easy to migrate, even across hardware platforms. Love the show. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Peter.
Did you install Rosetta on your new MacBook Pro, Adam?
Yeah, I ended up having to for something. I don't remember what it was. I know I have old stuff that's not going to get updated, basically.
Right.
I can't remember which app it was off the top of my head. I mean, I'm assuming I haven't tried to reconnect to my Drobo yet, and I'm assuming that's dead.
I'm able to connect to my Drobo from, my network Drobo. I haven't tried to connect to a direct attach.
Direct. But I mean, do you still have access to Drobo dashboard? I mean, that's the piece.
I think so. I don't have it on this computer, but I'm pretty sure I was able to get to it. I don't know. It's been a little while, Adam, but I think so.
Yeah, I've moved on to the Synology. I moved everything over to the Synology.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still have a new inbox USB-C or USB 3 Drobo.
Yep.
In my garage.
I connected that to my Synology. So my Synology connects to my Drobo, and my Synology backs up things across the USB to the Drobo. So that the Synology happily talks to the Drobo. So yeah.
Scrawlways says, my mother still uses a Drobo attached. This is in the Discord.
Yeah.
But the dashboard doesn't work. I don't know how you would, without the dashboard, you can't really do anything with it. I guess it'll still connect and mount maybe, but you're not going to be able to recover if a drive fails.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, be careful there. Ooh.
Yes, exactly. Be careful there.
It's time to move away from Drobos if you haven't moved away from your Drobo yet.
Yeah, for sure.
Get on it.
Yep. All right. Well, we have some questions coming up. But speaking of what it's time for, it's time to talk about our next two sponsors. Because how sometimes you need to capture something on your screen and keep it handy, like a bit of code, an email, or the one time your cat perfectly photobombed your Zoom call? Enter our sponsor, ScreenFloat 2, from the same brilliant minds that gave us Yoink, which we love. ScreenFloat 2 is your new Mac screen capture powerhouse. Snap screenshots or even record your screen with optional mic and system audio, and those captures float above all your apps. Perfect for quick reference while you're working, researching, or just nerding out. But it doesn't stop there. With OCR, it finds text and even QR codes in your shots. If you need to redact something before sharing, easy. Organize your captures with folders, smart folders, and iCloud Sync across your Macs. It even supports AppleScript and shortcuts, so you can build automations like resizing and emailing a capture with a double click. Yeah, really. It's $14.99, and that's a one-time purchase either on their website or the Mac App Store. And there's a 28-day free trial, so you can float before you commit. Go to eternalstorms.at/ScreenFloat to grab it now. Of course, that link is going to be in our show notes. And remember, don't get caught juggling screenshots. Use ScreenFloat instead. And our thanks to ScreenFloat and the folks at Eternal Storms for sponsoring this episode. Have you ever noticed how running your own business or podcast means you're suddenly the marketing department too? Yeah, obviously, same. And candidly, marketing can feel like one big expensive guessing game. And that's what I love about what our sponsor, Constant Contact, is doing. It's like hiring a mini marketing team that actually knows what it's doing and shows up on time. With Constant Contact, you can manage email, text, social media, landing pages, even events, all from one dashboard. Their AI content generator helps you go from idea to inbox in record time. Plus, with real-time reporting, you actually know what's working and what's not. And the templates, hundreds of them, fully customizable and totally brand ready. I'm eager to get started with this, especially now that I know that they support so much more than just email. The social media, the events, they've got it all. And friendly phone support included. Marketing your business doesn't need to feel like guesswork. Constant Contact makes it easy. Get a free 30-day trial when you go to ConstantContact.com. Try Constant Contact free for 30 days at ConstantContact.com. Again, ConstantContact.com. And our thanks to Constant Contact for sponsoring this episode. All right, do some more questions?
Sure. Yeah. We got one from Tony. Tony B says, how do I stop macOS from correcting a single word name? Is that the full thing, or am I missing something?
This is a Discord thing.
Here it is. Sorry. Does
okay.
anyone know any way at all to stop macOS from auto-correcting a single word? There is a specific acronym that I type numerous times per day, and macOS decides that it's spelled wrong and wants to correct it to a word that is one character off. Of course, the usual all-in or all-out solutions from the Apple community forums don't help. I was able to create a workaround in Text Expander, but I'd rather not have to use a workaround.
Yeah, and there was a great discussion in our Discord where Paul Conaway and Ben both shared that adding an entry to the text replacement section of the keyboard settings would do this, and it will sync to your iOS devices too. So that I think that's the answer. I don't know of any others, but it Ben does point out, since you have Text Expander, I'd recommend just using that because it's more flexible most of the time. I'll add to that, though, it doesn't sync to iOS the same way that it does, but it's synced to the custom keyboard. And so, yeah, I would, if it were me, I'd put it in both.
So just so I'm clear, is that you would then put as the text replacement, like the way you want to spell it and then the way you want to spell it, like, so they're the same?
Exactly. You put the same entry into both. Yes. Yes. Yep. Yeah, I know. It seems counterintuitive until you do it, and then you're like, oh, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
And then I want to quickly add the bonus quick tip, and I don't remember who sent it, but if you right-click on your text replacement, you can export it, and when you click export, it takes all your text replacements and exports them as a plist file, and you could take that to another machine that's on a different Apple ID. For instance, I use it on my wife's iMac, so all my text replacements are on her iMac as well as all my machines because she has a different Apple ID in there. So yeah, so if you right-click on on a single text replacement and click export, it exports all of them as a plist.
Nice. And then the same thing for importing it, right? You right click and you can
then
choose
you turn
import.
around and right click and import that plist file into it. Because when he
Nice.
first gave me that tip, I was like, oh, why would you want to do this? It syncs because I went and checked it out. Oh, it syncs across to iOS and iPadOS, and I can use it on the iMac. Did that right away. Boom. Yeah.
Huh.
So, but be careful not to overwrite your wife's text replacements if you do this. Combine them and then re-import. Export hers, put it all together in one plist, and then re-import.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And ChatGPT could, if you're not comfortable merging plists manually, I would think ChatGPT could probably get you there.
Oh, yeah.
Save individual copies of both, just in case what you wind up with is not what you expected. But your mileage will vary. Yes,
it's been a while since I looked at a plist, but it's just an XML file, right?
it is just an XML file, but not everybody thinks in structured text. So, but yes, it is just an XML file.
They should update to JSON. Come on.
Also, just structured text, Adam. That's right. Yeah. All right. Should we move on to Hinches, Pete?
We should, because Hinches writes in, I know that in Zoom, there is an audio setting that allows you to balance audio so that when you are talking or listening in the conversation, you or someone else shout out, the computer balances you out so that you sound so that you are not blasted with a sudden loud talker. My question is, there's such a setting on iPhone for podcasts. In certain podcasts, I have trouble when driving and a podcast cuts to an ad, and the increase in volume means I have to turn down the volume, and then when the ad ends, I can't hear the podcast, so I have to turn it back up. Is there a setting or automation that can be set to resolve this issue? And I'm sorry, Dave, I'm going to interrupt your answer ahead of time and say what I said before the show. Hinches, just listen to this show, Adam's show, my show, and you won't have that problem. Just saying.
Well,
there's your answer. Just listen to these good shows.
It is worth it for podcasters to learn about balancing levels and compression and all of that stuff, because sound quality does matter. I always said in the beginning when we started this show, the most important thing, the prime directive, was release consistently. The secondary directive, and it was a distant second, was to have good audio quality. Content quality was never anywhere on that list because we knew the content was going to suck out of the gate. But we also knew that if we did the other two things, we'd have enough time to actually get better at the content. And here we are 20 years later, still working on that tertiary directive.
We'll get there someday.
Yeah, exactly. But I am happy to teach anyone, podcasters or anybody else, about balancing audio and compression and all that stuff. That feature that you want is coming to Apple Podcasts 26. That was one of the things they talked about during the keynote. Until then, and perhaps even after that, I highly, highly, highly recommend listening to your podcast with Overcast, because Marco Arment wrote an entirely custom audio playback engine that does a lot of different things. One of them is exactly this, balancing the audio levels and essentially doing some on-the-fly compression to tighten everything up. Because you're right, listening in your car when you've got 60 dB of road noise, and suddenly you've got two speakers on a podcast that are 10 dB different from one another. You're mixing faders while you're driving just to hear the show, and it's non-optimal.
No one wants to do that.
No, nobody wants to. I don't want to do that either. But Overcast, nothing's perfect. I mean, if it's really bad, the source material is really bad. Overcast can only do so much, but it does quite a bit. So that's my recommendation. Certainly for now, we'll see when Apple Podcasts 26 is actually out, how well it does it. I should put the beta on somewhere and experiment, but anyway.
Levelator still exists.
Kinda. Yeah. Yeah.
I've been using it. I think it's still on my computer.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
But,
that's why you needed Rosetta.
I haven't used it on the new machine yet. I was using it on my old Intel.
Okay.
I summon Paul Figiani.
Oh, I forgot about Paul Figiani, yeah.
I just found a link to an article from 2015, but this was one of his like mantras for a while. I believe he was trying to get the podcast industry to set up some sort of target standard so that all podcasts would kind of target the same levels for this exact reason that this person's talking about. I don't know if it ever went anywhere. I know that I had sent him samples, and he had asked a number of like larger podcasters for different samples and that sort of thing. So there's an article that he wrote in 2015 talking about a published standard for loudness of audio streaming and network file playback. From AES. This was back in 2015. But he basically was saying, yeah, this is great for like music streaming and stuff like that, but it goes into some of the details on how voice is different, and there's probably some adjustments. And if you want to get real technically nerdy with all this stuff, well, we can I'll throw this article link in the show notes. I mean, it's old, but I mean, it'll give you the rough idea of what, the concept that we're talking about.
Yeah. It makes a huge difference, as we all know, and it's one of the things we strive for here is getting balance levels and all that stuff. So
I just assumed that 16 LUFS was the podcast standard.
It might be. I don't know. I forget what do we publish to? I'm sure I could tell you.
I thought it was minus 16 LUFS.
Is
LUFS.
Is that what Auphonic publishes to?
I believe it.
I'm publishing to negative 16 LUFS. Yeah.
So, which is loudness units relative to full scale, LUFS.
All right.
See how smart I is?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Just ask me.
How are we doing on time? We're doing okay. Let's go to Bob. Are you ready to read Bob's? I know you were looking up a link there, Adam.
Yeah, I got Bob here.
Okay.
Bob says, several months ago, my wife's 2019 Core i5 iMac with 16 gigabytes of memory and a 1 terabyte Fusion drive running Sequoia 15.5 became excruciatingly slow on startup, taking as much as 10 minutes or longer to power on onto the login screen. Carefully watching the startup bar, I've noticed a couple times when the bar stops moving for as long as 2 to 3 minutes or more. I've done all of the usual troubleshooting, checking the HDD with Apple Disk Utility and Clean My Mac, monitoring it with iStat menus, rerunning the most current OS updater, and finally doing a complete nuke and pave, full backup, reformat, restore from the backup. Nothing solved the problem. Is there a utility that would allow me to graphically view the startup process either during startup or as a log sheet with timestamps? Perhaps then I could figure out what is stopping startup and then work on fixing that. One last question. Is this an example of Apple's forced obsolescence for older hardware? Thanks for any help you can offer, Bob.
So I have thoughts on this, but as you were reading it, I was reminded of the verbose mode in startup that Intel Macs have. I don't know that we have that on Apple Silicon Macs. Apple's knowledge base article does not. It indicates that the Command V only works on Intel-based Macs. But what verbose mode does or did is you would hold down Command V as your Mac started up, and instead of just having the progress bar, it would show you the kernel logs as it booted, or the system logs, I guess, not the kernel logs. And that would give you an indication as to what it was waiting for at any given point. And that could be helpful. So from what I'm seeing here, though, I don't think we get verbose mode anymore, which is kind of a shame. But my gut, and I certainly am biased here because I've experienced this, but maybe that bias leads us to the answer, is that I'm guessing it's the Fusion drive. Those can definitely become problematic if the Fusion drive is a large spindle drive and a smaller SSD, and macOS kind of just decides what should be on the SSD, essentially using it like a cache. And so when the spindle drive starts to go sideways, that can really slow things down, especially if it's got to migrate data back and forth. So if I were there, what would I do next department? If you have a fast USB or Thunderbolt SSD, something like maybe the 2 terabyte Crucial one that Adam mentioned earlier in the show, I would try setting up macOS on that and booting from it. That'll tell you pretty quickly if your problem is your drive or something else on your Mac. So that would be what. That's where I would go with that.
So Dave.
So Adam.
I just found a MacPa article on how to do this on your Apple Silicon Mac.
Oh, really?
Yes. It is a sudo command you can force the Mac to always boot in verbose mode with an NVRAM command from the terminal. I'm going to link to their article in the show notes.
Great.
So you'd want to turn this on, do your QA, right? And then probably go back and turn it off, because otherwise it's going to boot always in verbose mode, which
is kind of fun. I don't know. Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
So sudo nvram boot-args equals --v. I'm assuming verbose mode is the command. Again, we'll put the command in the show notes, but you do that. Obviously you got to put your admin password in and then quit terminal. And then next time you reboot, it should boot into verbose mode. And this would work for Intel and Apple Silicon Macs, obviously. Right.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay, then that would be the first thing that I would do for Bob's scenario is that. Although, wait, this is a 2019 iMac, so guess what? It's Intel.
It's Intel.
So
the
verbose mode. Yeah, there you go. I'm a little slow today. I know. Like it's this. I'm sure it's this fever that I have, or maybe not. But I'll just blame it on that. That's. I would boot in verbose mode and look at what the line is when it's waiting for something. That's often very informative, and feel like have your phone ready. And, take a picture of what it looks like, because you can't do screenshots at that point. macOS isn't up and running. So just literally take a picture and just make sure the picture's clear and send it to us, and we'll help you kind of interpret what might be out there. Yeah, good stuff. Love that. All right, where are we? Should we go to Dan?
Take us to Dan? I could do that. Dan writes in asking about displays. Hi guys, love the show and have been listening for years. New lips, I guess, this week. Sorry. My current iMac 27-inch is the 2019 Intel. I think at that time, Dave and I bought that model. Just my luck. I usually get 10 years from an iMac. I only use it for personal stuff. I don't create video or anything. I'm wondering if you have any advice for where to watch for display sales or deals. I think I'd like to get around the same size since it's just personal use. I don't need the best display, but I'd also like to be at least a good one that will hopefully last. Are there any minimum specs that I should be looking for? My plan is to keep this iMac going for a little bit longer so I have time to save and search. I hope to eventually get an M4 Mac Mini with 24 gigs of RAM and a 512 SSD. Thanks and appreciate any thoughts. Dan.
Yeah. Okay. So I have been in this boat, as you well know, and anytime I needed to buy a display with my own cash, I would have gone to Monoprice. But it's been a while, and my research says that Monoprice doesn't really offer displays like this anymore. They have one refurbished 27-inch display. But coming over from a 5K display on an iMac, you definitely want to get at least a 4K, or as it's often called, UHD display. You don't want to get just an HD, which is 1080p. You're not going to be happy with the way that looks, most likely. So you want to get yourself a 4K display. And that that's kind of where things start to open up. I did some research. I found a Monoprice refurbished one for $250. I found a Samsung one for $250. I found one from a company called Sceptre that I've never heard of, but it has great reviews on Amazon, thousands of them, for $180. There is a Dell one for $280. And Dell was always known for sourcing really good glass for their displays. They were kind of doing what Monoprice was doing in their own way, where they would source the really good glass and then kind of build a less expensive frame and stand around it so that they could keep the cost down. But yeah, candidly, the Dell one for $280, it's 120 hertz. 4K UHD display, which means it's 3840 by 2160. So that's probably the one I would go with, all else being equal. But I'd be tempted by that Sceptre for $100 less. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
These are effectively commodities right now. So I would be tempted by it. And, get it and see how it is. You're going to... The nice part is you've got it next to an Apple 5K display, and so you'll know real fast if it's going to hold up. So I've done this. I've had 5K displays next to 4K displays, and a lot of them look really good. I had Monoprice displays. I've had ViewSonic. I've got the Philips. So it is possible to have it look good enough next to it that moving windows back and forth, you don't. You're not like, oh my gosh, this is terrible over here. There are some displays where that's the case, but many of them are not. So, yeah.
So this is DisplayPort displays. He's looking for something relatively lower priced, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the one thing I've been wanting to get external monitors, but my thing is I feel like I want a Thunderbolt one, like Thunderbolt 4. And then on top of that, the other dilemma I've often had with Thunderbolt displays, and I've never understood this and maybe it's because I like to run my laptop in clamshell mode, so I'd prefer to have, I have two, I think 24-inch displays right now that are just low-end displays that I use.
Sure.
But I was going to upgrade to like 5K displays, and hardly anybody does daisy chaining. And so you're going to eat up two Thunderbolt ports, or have to plug into a hub and use two Thunderbolt ports. The only company, and I'd love to know if anybody knows of anybody else, but the only company I know who does it is, I think, Ben-Q. They have their 27-inch 5K designer monitors. They're not cheap, but they're Thunderbolt 4, and they have daisy chaining. And I'm like, that's the huge advantage, because I can plug one cable in for the monitor and plug one monitor to the other monitor, and then I have two monitors on one cable.
I'm pretty sure this Philips monitor that I have in front of me here is, I don't want to look around the back, so I'm trying to look it up here. But the Philips monitor that I use here in the studio is Thunderbolt and has multiple ports on it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
maybe it's changed. But for the longest time, all these people are making Thunderbolt 4 monitors with one Thunderbolt port.
Yep.
It's like, can you just put one more in there, please, so I can daisy chain these things?
I'm pretty sure it's got multiple Thunderbolt ports on it. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's the Philips Creator Series, and it's come down quite a bit. It's $432. So, and I love this screen. This screen is utterly fantastic.
Yeah, I think these Ben-Q ones are,
yeah,
$1,500.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah. So for $430, it's $433 when you round up by a nickel. So, but yeah, I'll put a link to that in the show notes too. Yeah,
well, that's a good price then.
I know this
like
screen
if
is amazing. Yeah,
if it'll daisy chain,
I think it does. I could be wrong. But I know it definitely, they show it daisy chaining. There it is. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. So, yeah, there's a picture right there of the old daisy chain happening. So, yep.
Would have been more fun for you to bang around on the mic and crawl back there and.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah. Yep. How are we on time? I think that kind of gets us there. I mean, unless is there something quick we want to do? But otherwise, I think we've we've made it through to the end here.
You want to do Tim's real quick? It's a quick answer.
It's really not. It's you.
Okay.
You think it is?
That's true.
It's not.
We'll do Tim next week.
Yes,
We got you
will do
coming.
Tim
He
next
got
week.
an email, so he knows.
Yeah. There's a long Discord thread about this that is not as quick as you think. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
yeah, we'll bring the band in and just start doing our thing here. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. Thanks for bearing with my my
You're
work
101
flu.
degrees.
Yeah, I think I'm probably down from that now. I took some Tylenol before we started the show, so
There you go.
yeah, it's all good.
Awesome.
Yep. Thanks for hanging out. Make sure to you got when this episode comes out, I think you got 1 day left of our giveaway for June, which is the one more Sonoflow headphones. And then we've got a really fun one coming up in July, which we'll talk about in the next episode for sure. It's going to be a blast. So I think you're going to like it. Thanks to all of you for listening. Thanks to CacheFly for providing all the bandwidth to get the show from us to you. As Pete said earlier in the episode, if you want to listen to other things, make sure to check out Pete's So There I Was podcast, Adam's debut film podcast, my Business Brain and Geek Gab podcasts. And all of those have well-balanced sound. I will attest to it. Yes, most of the time. We don't always get it right. Sometimes. Yeah, they really do. Thank you. And come to MacStock. That's real soon now, like 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, looking forward to seeing you there.
Less than.
Less than by the time the episode comes out. That's right. Yeah, for sure. That's it. Yeah, listen, have a good week and don't get caught.
Made on a Mac. See ya.
Later. 143.31.